Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday evening. It's Weather for Weather Geeks time here on January the 19th. It's one of those dates on the calendar that, if you're a weather weenie, you know this date by heart if you've lived in our region for any length of time. This, back in 1994, was, of course, the coldest day on record. Not only here locally, but in many climate sites in Ohio and western PA. This is the granddaddy of them all. Back in 1994, at the Youngstown Warren Airport, we registered a temperature of 22 below zero. There were some local thermometers in some of the cold spots in northeast Ohio, especially up into Ashtabula County, 29, 30 below zero on some of those local thermometers in some valleys. Those, of course, are unofficial temperatures, but there's been some documentation of some unofficial thermometers reaching 30 below in this outbreak back in 1994. The high at the airport that day was 6 below. That was the warmest temperature all day long. Unbelievable. About a third of the country had temperatures at some point on this date below zero. And about 16% of the country had temperatures of 20 degrees below zero or more. And I know you can't really see the legend, but all of these pinks, this is stuff that's way below zero. The zero line came all the way down into the deep south. I mean, good chunk of northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, the Carolinas, all below zero for a time anyway, on January 19th, 1994. Now, in the calendar year 1994, we had about 10 days with temperatures at some point dropping below the goose egg. But the top of the heap on this list, no surprise, again, if you're a longtime resident of this region, the mid-70s were something else. In 1977, we had 18 days in which the temperature dropped below zero. And somewhat surprisingly, if your memory's short, some recent years on this list. We had some pretty harsh winters last decade, in the middle of the decade, 2013 into 14, 2014 into 15. Both were pretty tough winters, and in 2015 and 2014, we had 16 days in which the temperature dropped below zero. We have not dropped below zero here locally since January 31st, 2019, and we're going to make it 2 years plus because no below zero temperatures are coming anytime during the closing 10 or 11 days, or 12 days, I guess, of January. All right, we had some sunshine to appreciate today. It was actually not a bad-looking day, especially compared to the slate gray, overcast, and gloomy conditions that we had yesterday. Hopefully you took advantage of that because the clouds are going to dominate for our Wednesday. Before that, though, tonight we are still on schedule to get some snow showers. These snow showers will make the trip across the Ohio Turnpike over the next several hours and on schedule to arrive here by the end of the evening into the overnight. This is a fairly weak disturbance, but it's going to be enough to, stir up the snow shower activity. There'll be some lake enhancement going on. This disturbance, when you look at the upper levels, it's this little doodad right here, this little kind of U-shaped, what we call, fancy meteorological terminology, a vorticity maximum. An area of spin, in other words, in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and that is what's responsible for tonight's snow. Before we come back home, quick trip across the pole, and I've been talking about this frequently of late. There was some hype and some talk a couple or a few weeks ago, this stratospheric warming is going to displace the polar vortex, and that means it's going to get cold in the U.S. And, sometimes it gets cold in the U.S. when you have a sudden stratospheric warming event that displaces the polar vortex. But just like if you dropped some water on top of a beach ball, there's no telling where that water droplet, what side of the beach ball the water droplet would come down. And when you have the polar vortex getting kicked out of its home on the North Pole, where the cold goes, it could go to our hemisphere, it could go to the other side of the globe. And this time around it went to the other side of the globe. And, Siberia is supposed to be cold in January, but even by Siberian standards, this is pretty crazy. Now, some of these temperatures are off my color scale. We see kind of this hole right here. That means it's colder than my color scale, which goes down to like minus 50. And this pretty severe cold extends pretty far to the south, all the way into China. This is where all the cold is. It is not in the northern hemisphere. Canada remains very, very mild, and as long as Canada is very, very mild, and our source region is mostly either the Pacific or the really mild parts of Canada, we're just not going to see any kind of harsh cold around here. What we are going to see, though, is some snow showers arriving between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. on average. Now, this isn't all the snow in the world, but this will be enough to have some impacts. I think surfaces will get slick overnight, untreated surfaces, and into tomorrow morning, if you're an early riser or a night owl, you're going to have to watch for some slick surfaces. But the snow showers and flurries will fade away pretty quickly by about daybreak on Wednesday morning. When it comes to the probability of 2 inches or more worth of snow, here's a look at the odds. There's a lot of colors here, but the legend is up here at the top. No surprise, with some lake enhancement involved in this system, the higher odds are in the northern part of our viewing area. So once you're north of I-80, the odds get up to 40% or so, 50%, even 60% once you're up far enough north, of 2 inches or more worth of snow. Now, I don't think a whole lot of places are going to get 4, but I could see 2.5 or 3 trying to accumulate in places like Kinsman and Greenville, the usual suspects when the lake gets involved. Once you're south of 224, your chances of 2 inches or more are not zero, but they're pretty low. Once you're down towards Salem and Lisbon and East Palestine and Salineville and places like that, your chances are pretty high that you're going to get a coating to an inch or so. Here's our official snow map showing the 1 to 2 area for most of our TV viewing area. But again, darker blue area, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5 maybe. Once you're up towards Route 87 in Trumbull County and, the northern reaches of Mercer. Again, this is kind of a boilerplate snow map when we have some sort of lake enhancement going on. And with the lake enhancement, this will be enough to reach winter weather advisory criteria from Cuyahoga County to Lake Geauga and Ashtabula counties in Crawford County and PA, meaning 4 inches or more, pretty likely in those locales. It becomes a lake effect snow warning once you're into Erie County, PA, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, southern parts of Erie County, New York. That's the county that Buffalo is in. Also, Wyoming County is east of Buffalo. And all those places stand to see at least a half a foot or more worth of additional snow. They've already had quite a bit of snow in the last couple of days. This little disturbance kicks off to the east. Might see some sunny breaks before Wednesday is through. A brief warm-up on Thursday with this warm front kicking in. We'll get a gusty west to southwest wind, sending temperatures up to about 40. Might be the last time we see temperatures up to about 40 for a little while, because here comes the next colder air mass on Friday with clouds, spotty flurries, and then over the weekend it looks pretty cold. In fact, we'll have our coldest night of January so far, believe it or not, coming up Saturday night. I have a low of 15 now in the forecast for Saturday night, making it our coldest January temperature. We have not been below 20 at the airport yet this January. Pretty remarkable, considering today is the 19th day of the month. Here's only the high temperatures over the next 7 days. Tomorrow and Saturday, the two coldest days, I should say, of the next 7. If you've been paying attention to my longer range thoughts of late, I've been talking about how, February does not look particularly cold. In fact, it could be quite a bit milder than average, I should say. This is the latest CFS modeling, climate forecast system. Out of all the long-range modeling, it might be doing actually the best job of late, capturing the pattern across North America. A lot of longer-range modeling has been trying to get the cold to come in and stick. It's been trying, and as you get closer, as the 8 to 14 day outlook becomes the 6 to 10 day, becomes the 3 to 5 day, the cold just shrivels up. We're having a hard time getting the cold to stick, despite what the models want to do in the longer range. But the CFS has been a little bit better, and it shows a lot of orange on the map here through the first half of February. Warmer than average temperatures favored. Interestingly, it does start to introduce some colder risks into the forecast during the second half of February, but I think overall the idea that at least the first half of February will not be cold by early February standards at all, I think that's where the smart money is at this point. Tomorrow, the Climate Prediction Center will put out their initial February outlook, and so it'll be interesting to see what their maps look like for the month of February. Just reminders, because it doesn't look all that cold doesn't mean it can't snow. We haven't had a particularly cold winter so far at all, but we're still above average snow-wise, thanks to a particularly snowy month of December. All right, thanks for hanging with me on this long edition tonight. I'll see you back here on Wednesday for more Weather for Weather Geeks.